you guys. So I know that I have mentioned and we've done Stitch in the Ditch before in regards to specific projects, but I thought I'd do a standalone video that explains how to do Stitch in the Ditch when you're working with right angle weave or cubic right angle weave or prismatic right angle weave. And of course the abbreviations on all of those are RAW, CRAW, and PRAW. It's all kind of very visually similar, and the way you do Stitch in the Ditch is the same. So let me bring you into the beads and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so these happen to be some samples that I made for a prismatic right angle weave video. You can see that they are the right angle weave squares. This particular one happens to be a triangle. This one has 4 squares per side, so it is a cube. So this is cubic right angle weave, which is part of the prismatic family. This one has 5 sides per row. You can see it's got the 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here. So this would be a pentagon, but also part of the family. But you can see the one thing that they all have in common here is this opening between the beads of each square. And that is where your Stitch in the Ditch bead goes, is in those openings between those beads. Now on all of these samples, I used 2 beads per side of each square. So it has quite a pronounced opening there. This sample that I'm going to show you on, this is a sample with 1 bead per side on the square. Still though, you've got those openings in between each one of the squares. So let me show you. Stitch in the Ditch is super simple. You just make sure that your thread is coming out a bead along one of these intersections. And here it's coming out of this bead here in this direction. So this is perfect. I'm going to drop a bead in each one of these intersections here. Your other option would be you could, and when you do that, the whole of your bead is going to be oriented the same as the whole of these beads here that you're passing through. Your other option would be to go this direction. So I could orient my thread coming out of here, and I could put a bead here going in this direction, and then the whole would orient in that direction instead. For certain projects, depending on what they're going to do with that Stitch in the Ditch bead, if they're going to embellish on top of it, that directionality may make a difference. But it's the exact same technique, it's just which direction you're going in, okay? So here I'm using a contrasting color bead, and I'm just picking up one, passing through the next bead on the other side of that hole. So why would you want to do Stitch in the Ditch? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that you can actually see the thread that holds these units together. Depending on what color thread you use, it may be more or less noticeable. Because I always use a darker thread, darker colors kind of recede into the background and you don't notice it as much. If I'd used white thread, you would really see that white thread in these corners. And so putting a bead in those intersections hides that. So that is one of the benefits. Another reason is that this stiffens the beadwork. So as I'm popping this in here, it's probably doing a little bit of tightening in this direction, you know, squishing it together. But it's also stiffening the piece quite a bit. And so using it for that reason is one reason why people use Stitch in the Ditch. It can also influence your shaping. I'm using the same size bead here so that things are staying straight. But if I'd said, instead of using a size 8 bead here, if I'd used a size 6, it would start making this bend in this direction, because in order for the size 6 beads to fit in that space, it would automatically start causing a bend. Likewise, to make it look good on this inside edge, you could then put 15s in between here just to give you that same kind of line and even further accentuate the bend. So people use it for shaping purposes. So there are definitely, and then actually one more reason that I can think of off the bat is notice how this bead is higher than the bead that was in the right angle weave. Doesn't this remind you of something? Maybe peyote stitch? This is a perfect way to get set up to work peyote stitch off of a raw, craw, or praw piece. So see how easy this is? I love Stitch in the Ditch. I love the way it kind of gives a very finished look to your piece. I love the stiffness that it gives you. It gives you some color options also. And it also then sets you up to do even more complicated beadwork. So Stitch in the Ditch with raw, craw, or praw. Easy enough. Happy beading.